Mystery creates wonder, and wonder is the basis of man's desire to understand, as rightly quoted by Neil Armstrong. The world around us is influenced by the wonders of mankind, be it the advancement of technology or rocket science. We, humans, have led our civilization to another world of riches and lavish lifestyle altogether. Our ancient history, our first ancestors, our majesties of the past, and many other notable people of the good old centuries have imparted us with the foundation of basic necessities to ensure our survival. All is good to say so far as the ancient human civilization is concerned: the kings, the ministers, the kingdom, the citizens, etc. But this does not bring our beloved discussion to a halt. Our past, how beautifully is entangled and illusioned with the display of its riches, the dynamic power of the kings, the love for kingdoms, and the quest to conquer other kingdoms. But did we stop to ponder on the mysteries it has in its deposits, and not even a mere clue left to unravel it? Be it the conspiracy against the great rulers of time, take for instance the assassination of the mighty Julius Caesar, or worse, the revolt of the kingdom against its king, or the betrayal of a trusted minister. The list does not end just as such. Therefore, to unravel the past, a field, perhaps the most powerful one to study our history, was welcomed into our world. Yes, it is nothing but our old pal, archaeology. Archaeology, however familiar the word sounds, it is not enough to convey its importance. The subject of archaeology itself is divided into many other categories, be it forensic archaeology, Egyptology, prehistoric or historic one, and whatnot. For now, we are concerned with forensic archaeology, and how it has aided us to uncover the past, invent the present, and create a future history, howsoever ironic it may sound. Everything till now is well and good with forensic archaeology. But what about the experts? How are they known to the world? Maybe a simple and straightforward name for them? Or a very scientific name? Here's a clue, it is a simple one. Well, you have guessed it correctly. Yes, the expert is called a forensic archaeologist. But what is the correlation between forensic science and archaeology? Is it a field which is so important that we need an expert? Well, the answer is yes. There is a correlation between the two fields of archaeology and forensic science, and that is the reason we are having an expert. Now this question would arise in our minds: what do they do? Well, a forensic archaeologist applies archaeological excavation method of forensic science to study the historical remains and find evidence in the form of artifacts and objects found on the site. They are proficient in creating records regarding the correlation between the objects, body, and features of the burial site. This looks really an interesting field to work on. Maybe one of us would want to become a forensic archaeologist. So, what are the skills needed to become an expert in this field? The skills that a forensic archaeologist possesses are to locate a body, understanding what happens to the body when it's under the earth for a prolonged period, to understand the site before excavating, which involves examining the surrounding features, like the soil layers etc. They are highly specialized in determining the age of the items that are found in the site and use various methods to do so. One of them is carbon dating, which is the use of carbon isotopes to determine the age of an object which may be even as old as 50,000 years. The main fields of forensic archaeology are graves and grave sites, objects related to crime and surface disposal of human remains. Graves and grave sites. Forensic archaeologists are often employed by the police to help locate and excavate graves and grave sites, as well as identify evidence related to crime and reconstruct the course of events that took place before the victim's burial. Objects related to crime. These can include both personal objects of a victim of crime and objects buried by the perpetrator to hide their involvement in the crime. They may involve weapons, tools, various personal objects, etc. Surface disposal of human remains. Forensic archaeologists are usually called in to help gather evidence in cases of surface disposal of human remains. These include covering the body with tree benches, rubbish, construction materials. Forensic archaeologists remove layer by layer in order to identify evidence and exclude objects that aren't connected with a crime or the victim. The tools and methods used in forensic archaeology are: gas chromatography. It separates chemical substances in the body, and when used in conjunction with mass spectrometry, which measures the mass of molecules in a substance, can help toxicologists identify the amount of poison in a body. Popularized in crime television shows, forensic radiology uses X-rays, computer tomography and MRIs to identify severely destroyed bodies and point to potential causes of death. Ground-penetrating radar and a proton magnetometer. They can help identify mass graves. The ground-penetrating radar sends radar waves into the ground to sense the edges of graves as well as the presence of bodies and other evidence. A proton magnetometer can be used to detect small changes in the Earth's magnetic field, which is particularly useful for finding grave pits as the act of digging a grave greatly disturbs the electromagnetic properties of the soil. Flotation. It is a process that can be used to recover small artifacts from the soil. The soil is placed on a screen that water can bubble through. The soil then gets separated from other matter like stones or bones. GIS or Geographic Information Systems. It is lastly used to store the coordinates and data of excavation sites. Anthropometers. They are used to measure and establish human stature with found bones. Bowler gauges. They are used to measure teeth. Spreading calipers. They are used in measuring head length and breadth. Heat-sensitive infrared cameras. These cameras are used to locate new graves, as it can reveal images in the ground that are not immediately visible above ground. All these centuries, we humans, have been immensely inquisitive about the enigmatic behavior of nature's mysteries and mankind's actions. There's some kind of a natural thirst in we curious beings to decode the unfathomable mysteries and thereby, seek the world's attention. Similar is the case of Pharaoh Tutankhamun's mummy and discovery of his tomb. The young pharaoh had a measly 18 years to survive for and then slept for eternity, all unexpectedly. Not a mere compelling evidence is there to ascertain the king's death, and hence, the discovery still goes on. The end of the research was near. All the hard work was to go down the drain, except for the one last hope. History repeats itself and every cloud has a silver lining. The date was November 16, 1922, just when the British archaeologist Howard Carter was determined to call off the research. A miracle, perhaps the most renowned discoveries of the ancient Egypt, awaited beneath the mustard carpet of the deserts. Archaeologists were on a mission to discover and unfold the unknown secrets of the pyramids and surrounding sites of interest. While archaeologists were busy working on excavation, under the boiling sun with sweat dripping from their foreheads, they asked a local resident to supply them drinking water. A boy was bringing drinking water in jars, for the archaeologists and the workers. Unfortunately, on his way, the boy tripped over a boulder and all the water had gone in vain. When the boy went to fetch water, the archaeologists tried moving the boulder, so that no one trips over that boulder again. A group of 5 to 8 people pushed the huge boulder. Little did they know that this domino effect that occurred due to the error, would lead to one of the greatest discoveries world history has ever known. What they saw was a staircase leading them to an underground chamber. Inside the chamber was a box. Our man, the bravest of all, Howard Carter, opened the mysterious sarcophagus. The glorious tomb belonged to none other than Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Round the world grew speculations of the discovery of the magnificent tomb of one of the most prominent rulers of ancient Egypt. The youngster's tomb, all ornamented with imperial luxuries and thousands of crests of gold, was found in the Valley of the Kings. The first glance at the tomb suggested that it was rather made in a hurried fashion, but all these superficial findings fascinate the nun. The real idea to ponder on was, how can such a man of impeccable courage and demeanor, having just minuscule 18 years to live for, let himself be slayed at the hands of atrocious death, with no heir to rule his vibrant kingdom? The questions are many, but answers remain none. And this mystery grabs the spotlight, provoking the greatest archaeologists of time to unravel the mystery of Pharaoh Tutankhamun's demise. Dozens of speculations have been stated to determine the exact reason for King Tut's death. The most prominent one remains the theory of Tut being murdered by one of his close relatives by a blow on the back of his head. Other sources suggest a lethal bite of a ferocious hippo killed the young pharaoh. A different theory suggests that King Tut got his leg fractured because of a chariot running over him. The fracture soon developed an infection and, along with malaria, unfortunately, took him to the world of the dead. The discovery was done, but the research work remained idle to be worked upon. Many of the brilliant archaeologists and forensic scientists of the time met together and aimed for the only goal, the challenge to unfold the mysteries of Tutankhamun's demise, and hence, have put forward a great many theories to ponder about. According to one of the theories, it is suggested that King Tut was murdered. If we go by the theory that King Tut was murdered, it was most probably that someone from the royal family was greedy for power and had eyes on the throne. The mummy of King Tut was found in a bad state, which made it even more complicated to figure out the exact reason of death. In the studies that were conducted in 1968 and 1978, experts had X-rayed the mummy and found out that two free-floating fragments that were found in the skull. This led to the theory that King Tut was probably murdered. However, experts could not confirm the theory of murder. They had also developed this understanding that it could not have been a blow on the head because the fragments that were found were not embedded in the embalming material. Instead, they were found loose. This suggested that it was most probably that the mummy had developed multiple fractures when there was an attempt to remove the heavy gold mask by Howard Carter's team. Hence, experts completely ruled out the theory that King Tut was murdered by a blow to the back of his head. Another theory suggests that King Tut was killed due to a lethal attack of a hippo. Hippos were commonly known for capsizing the fishing boats, destroying the crops, and also for stampeding. The hippos were a menace to the Egyptian society, so likely the king would have tried to hunt the 15-feet-long mammal to prevent any further damages made by the hippos to his people. The images of pharaohs hunting hippos were commonly found in Egyptian arts. According to experts, it represented a triumph over the evil. Moreover, the statuettes of the young king wielding a spear during a hippo hunt were found in his tomb among the treasures that were buried along with him. From the X-rays and CT scans, two things were clear. One was that his ribs were severed due to the hippo's attack, and the other being that his heart was not embalmed, which is unusual according to the Egyptian embalming procedure in the ancient period. By considering the facts of the damages that hippos made to the people, and the culture of hunting hippos found in the arts and statuettes. Finally, the CT scan results of Tut's body concludes that the young pharaoh being killed by a hippo might also be a reason for his death. Egyptian experts concluded that King Tut had an accident while he rode in his chariot, which probably might have costed him a leg fracture. King Tut comes from a long line of warrior pharaohs who always were skillful in battles and athletics. By this history, it is pretty much possible that the accident would have occurred because of the wear on the tires. When Howard Carter discovered Tut's tomb in 1922, he found about 6 chariots in the antechamber. From the CT scans and X-rays, it was concluded that his leg suffered a fracture or a crack in the bone. From the results of the CT scans and the importance of chariots in a pharaoh's life, it is pretty evident that an accident would have occurred when he was riding his chariot, which might have costed King Tutankhamun his life. According to this theory, it has been suggested that the boy king, Tutankhamun and his ancestors had a rare bone disorder, the Kolar disease, which along with malarial infection became the cause for the king's death. DNA tests and computerized tomography, CT scan, suggested that King Tut had a weak immune system, congenital deformities along with genetic disorders, because of which, a mild disease was fatal enough to finish his game. In that view, another such theory has been put forward with a fascinating twist. The newly innovated theory implies that the boy king had initially been weakened by his broken leg, most probably due to falling from a chariot, deteriorating his condition further with malarial infection. It is believed that it is also possible, although less likely, that this fracture was caused by the embalmers. A thin coating of embalming resin around the leg break, suggesting that Tut broke his leg just before he died and that his death may have resulted from an infection or other complication. Experts could not find any signs of healing of the bone. These health conditions exaggerated and it eventually led to his aching death. The CT scan of the young boy king was performed by the world-renowned Egyptian archaeologist, Zahi Hawass, and an enormous team of supreme archaeologists and forensic scientists. The CT scan conducted back in 2005, resulted in the acceptance of a major conclusion: King Tut was not murdered. Yes, you heard that right. Mr. Zahi Hawass had announced the CT scan results 2 months after it was actually performed on the young pharaoh. The team had found no foul play in the mummy of Tutankhamun. There was no explicit evidence, indicating murder as the reason for the pharaoh's death. This helped the archaeologists rule out the theory of King Tutankhamun being murdered by a blow on his head. The CT scan results rather suggested that the teenager king might have suffered a terrible accident, crushing his chest. Ronald Harrison, an anatomy professor in 1968, had x-rayed the mummy and revealed a flabbergasting fact: the mummy's breastbone and front ribs were missing, beneath its chest. The team later interpreted that King Tutankhamun might have broken his leg, leading to a bone fracture. The left thigh bone of the mummy suggested the same. It is suggested that the fracture was not lethal enough to snatch away the boy king's life, but a lethal infection could have been a profound candidate to do so. Another idea states that the fracture could have been caused by the embalmers, keeping King Tutankhamun's demise an unfathomable mystery. There was a lot of turmoil going on when Tut inherited the throne. Be it the reconstruction of the temples his father destroyed, inheriting the name Akhenaten, or even the rumors of him being a puppet ruler manipulated by his minister. The most important of all, the inheritance of the throne at such a young age. Inbreeding within the royal families of ancient Egypt often led to stillbirths. Along with defects and genetic disorders, he also had a lot of congenital deformities associated with inbreeding that was common among Egyptian royalty. Since there was a lot of uncertainty and commotion when the power was transferred from the late emperor to his son, so the country was in chaos, torn between the rule of the current and previous king. Not only that, but though King Tutankhamun had a lot of problems, mostly related to inbreeding, it was not the immediate cause of death. There is still something else we are yet to discover which, along with his pre-existing problems, caused his unfortunate demise. Though there are a lot of theories on King Tutankhamun's death, we cannot confirm the actual cause, even with our latest technology. It is believed that the authorities might have concealed the exact cause of the pharaoh's death to avoid political instability, fearing that the public might interpret it as a negative sign from the gods. Since this happened during a period where the medicine was not advanced enough and immunity of people was not able to withstand even the simplest of diseases, not only is King Tut's death a mystery, but there are also gaps in the story of his life. However far modern science and techniques have fallen short of their inherent possibilities, they have taught mankind one lesson: nothing is impossible. From the bottom of our oceans to the final frontiers, from the smallest of particles to the largest of heavenly bodies, from those we can see to those we can't, from phenomenon which amaze us to those which terrify us, Every body in our vast universe obeys a law scripted by nature and by science. But no matter how far, how long, or how deep science takes us, it can't take us backward through time as of now, so that we can travel back and throw light on the whys and wherefores behind the bewildering and baffling demise of King Tutankhamun. Science may set limits to knowledge, but should not set limits to imagination. So, you can unleash your imagination and come up with a theory on your own for the same. Who knows, you all could be right in some way.